Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. The fire exchange between Iran and the joint forces of the United States and Israel is just getting started as a nervous world looks on. The immediate impact, airspace shutdowns, but the long-term shockwaves could take a toll on economies.
There's much to lose in this conflict. For the Philippines, a prolonged conflict could put more pressure on the weak peso and the already steep prices of fuel.
And in the Philippine Congress, impeachment proceedings against the Vice President begin, but only 2 of 4 complaints are so far declared sufficient in form.
Timing is everything at this stage. Kaya't hindi po tayo muna manghimasok sa protocols ng host countries.
Marching orders from the Marcos administration ensure that Filipinos are shielded from the escalating tensions in the Middle East. At the moment, though, with airspaces shut down, not much can be done for OFWs who want to come home.
For citizens here in the Philippines, the concern is protection from the conflict's long-term impact, higher oil prices. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes with tonight's big story.
There will be no mass repatriations of Filipinos currently in Middle East countries. The Department of Migrant Workers made this clear despite current tensions in the region after the United States and Israel initiated an attack on Iran over the weekend. DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak, however, says the government is preparing for possible mass repatriation scenarios. Currently, there are around 100 Filipinos from Dubai who have asked to return to the Philippines. There have also been repatriation requests received from Pinoys in Israel, Bahrain, and Qatar. As of the moment, the Department of Foreign Affairs has issued an Alert Level 3 or voluntary repatriation in Lebanon, its Alert Level 2 or restriction phase in Israel, and Alert Level 1 or precautionary phase in Jordan. Closely monitored countries include Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. The government is currently coordinating with host countries for possible collection and exit points for evacuations.
Kung sarado sa ngayon ng UAE, we will make sure to be there, our augmentation teams, in the areas surrounding kung saan pwedeng sumalubong at pumasok at the right time. Again, timing is everything at this stage. Kaya't hindi po tayo muna manghimasok sa protocols ng host countries.
As Iran continues to retaliate, their armed forces have been targeting Middle East nations that currently house U.S. bases and facilities. In terms of possible spillover of hostilities, which may affect the Philippines as a U.S. ally, the National Security Council and the Palace say this is far-fetched.
There are no American military bases in the Philippines. The sites referred to under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, are Philippine military bases that remain under the full ownership, control, and management of the armed forces of the Philippines. The National Security Council, in coordination with the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Department of National Defense, and other concerned agencies, continues to closely monitor developments in the Middle East. At this time, tensions remain confined to the region, and there is no verified direct threat to Philippine territory, including our military facilities. So we urge the public to remain calm.
But the country is already feeling the effects of the tensions in the Middle East. One important commodity, oil, is now seeing a spike in local prices. Tomorrow, pump prices will see steep increases, a nearly 2 peso increase in gasoline, 1 peso and 20 centavos per diesel, and 1 peso and 50 centavos per liter hike for kerosene. The Department of Energy has called for an emergency meeting with oil companies to discuss measures to help mitigate rising fuel costs. Among those being suggested is the suspension of excise tax for fuel, as well as subsidy for public transport operators and drivers. Aside from oil, many OFWs in the Philippines are now affected by the travel restrictions in the Middle East. As many as 8,000 are now stranded in airports as flights to the region have either been canceled or turned back to Manila. Most also came from provinces, headed back to work in affected Arab nations and Emirates, or have connecting flights from there.
Palaning na kami po, tapos nag-abiso yung pilot namin, sabi nga we come back to Manila. So kami, bigla nga shock din kasi bakit? Ang ano namin baka sira yung ano. Then nagsabi nila may ano daw war sa Dubai. Kaya bumalik.
Ang ano nila, yung arrival at saka departure lang ano nila, i-accommodate. Kaya medyo stress na stress eh. Balik magagawa ko, 27 years na ako sa labas. Tapos ganyan pa ginagawa nila sa amin.
Oo, ang laki talagang abala. Hindi lang pera, yung pagod mo pa, yung dala-dala mo, pagod ka na nakaupo ka ng 5 oras sa may bus. Tapos yung pagdating mo dito, stranded ka pala.
The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines says 45 flights to Middle East destinations have been canceled, and that's just for March 2. And there's still no indication when normal flights will resume.
Inaantay lang natin kasi talaga kung ano yung magiging announcements nila eh. Kasi from there, doon tayo mag-move forward kung ano ba yung gagawin nating mga action po. Close nila temporarily yung airspace nila. So ibig sabihin, hindi makakadaan yung mga aircrafts, kahit anong klaseng aircraft, military and even yung mga commercial aircrafts doon. No? So wala talagang operation.
Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Kaktak says he has instructed authorities to assist stranded OFWs and even Filipino tourists. Kapatid mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
And back here at home, only 2 of 4 impeachment complaints against VP Sara Duterte managed to hurdle the first test. In today's deliberation of the House Committee on Justice on the complaint sufficiency in form, only the 3rd and 4th complaint were approved. The 3rd complaint was filed by religious groups last February 9, while the 4th was from a group of lawyers filed on February 18. The ruling sent the 2 complaints to the next stage determination of sufficiency in substance, where the panel will examine whether the allegations against the Vice President, if true, constitute impeachable offenses under the Constitution. Earlier in the hearing, the committee voted to set aside the first impeachment complaint filed on February 2, 2026 by former lawmakers and activist groups and endorsed by the Makabayan Bloc. Voting 22 to 10, the committee ruled that the complaint fell within the Constitution's 1-year bar. The majority argued that the Supreme Court's July 25, 2025 ruling made clear that no impeachment proceeding may be commenced before February 6, 2026. But ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino maintained the SC's January 29 final ruling changed this.
Ang hamon ko po at panawagan sa committee at sa buong House ay wag po tayong matakot sa sarili nating anino. If we do not take ownership of our own rules and impeachment, then at every step, kahit sinong gustong hadlangan ang pagpapanagot sa ikalawang pinakamataas na opisyal o sino mang impeachable official, at any point pwede pong tumakbo sa Supreme Court para questionin ang rules natin.
Hindi naman po tayo natatakot. Gusto lamang po natin mag-ingat. We should interpret it as a whole by including the filing. Hindi naman po sinabi dito na or eh. Ang sinasabi dito, filing and referral.
During the hearing, the Justice Panel also approved the withdrawal of the second complaint filed by Tindig Pilipinas co-convener Francis Joseph Kiko Aquino D. In a letter to the committee, D and his co-complainants said they were withdrawing their February 2, 2026 verified complaint after careful deliberation and would instead support the 3rd impeachment complaint.
Halos pareho naman po yung nilalaman in terms of the substantial grounds for impeachment. Therefore, we felt it best to withdraw our complaint to expedite the process.
And now joining us on the program to discuss this is Bicol Saro Party List Congressman Terry Ridon, member of the House Justice Committee. Good evening, Congressman. Welcome to the Big Story.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Let's discuss first the 1-year bar rule on the first complaint. Which holds precedence? Is it the earlier ruling of the Supreme Court or the January 29 ruling?
Well, yung pong sinabi ng House Committee on Justice, mas mahalaga po yung express na binanggit po ng Korte Suprema eh. na Feb 6 po yung reckoning date ng pong bagong mga impeachment complaints. No? So ibig sabihin, yung po nasa resolution kasi walang binabanggit eh. So we are just implying it as lawyers or advocates na hindi. We can actually file before Feb 6 dahil nagbago ng mga definition. Yung pong resolution po ng Supreme Court. So I think yung pong House Committee on Justice would want to err on the side of what the Supreme Court actually said expressly, which is yung pong Feb 6 reckoning date. No? So that is what had happened when we set aside the Makabayan petition.
Because once again, this could be challenged before the Supreme Court and lead to another delay.
Well, pagka ho talagang beyond the Feb 6 na po, either filing and referral, I think I'm quite certain na there can be no resort anymore to the Supreme Court for this new impeachment complaint. Kasi talaga ho nga, whether filing or whether referral, after Feb 6 na po yan nangyari. No? So, tingin ko, mababasura po ng Korte Suprema pag yan po yung magiging basis ng Supreme Court challenge.
After all, may dalawa namang complaints na pumasa sa sufficiency in form. So, that should assuage the Makabayan block.
Yes, and I understand that both parties po, yung po Akbayan and Makabayan, are committed po to prosecute the impeachment complaints that had survived in form. No? So I think they will make presentations as well in sufficiency and substance, and in the event that there is an affirmative vote on substance during formal proceedings na po. After po substance.
Congressman Dumogan earlier raised a point, no? There was no resolution to that, but I just wanted to confirm with you, Congressman Terry, kung may point ba siya na sabi niya, by setting aside the first complaint, baka daw magamit yon bilang isa na namang hurdle against the two complaints that hurdled already the sufficient in form.
Tingin ko po, wala namang magiging ganong impact kasi by setting it aside, it is effectively mooted. No? Pagka ho, tinabi na po yung mga complaints na ito, either yung pong set-aside complaint at saka yung withdrawn complaint. No? So, if there will ever be a challenge in the future, it will have to be a challenge on the surviving two complaints, yung pong third and the fourth complaint.
Now you're going to move to discuss whether these two complaints are sufficient in substance. Can they be both combined?
If both po survive on substance, I think the Justice Committee can decide whether or not we will consolidate it. Pero it's something that the committee will decide. Sa totoo lang naman, pwedeng tumawid po towards full proceedings nang magkahiwalay po yan. But that will be after a determination of substance on both po.
Is that a rule, or will you have to vote to consolidate? Or is that a matter of normal course?
No, we will have to vote first on substance, of course, on the two complaints. And then if it is the pleasure of the body, someone might move to consolidate the two complaints. No? Pero hindi na naman ho yan automatic. No? So pwede hong no one makes a motion and then we will proceed separately during formal proceedings na po.
So when will you begin discussing this issue on sufficiency in substance?
Tomorrow po. So we will discuss the third complaint and then the fourth complaint po in sequence. No? So we will discuss all of the grounds and all of the basis, no, for the filing of these complaints. So ano po yung basis for betrayal of public trust, ano po yung basis for culpable violation of the Constitution, graft and corruption, among the other impeachable offenses. Siyempre, we will have to talk about confidential funds, yung pong mga bribery po dun sa debt and payoffs, and then yung pong death threat against the President and the first family, no, and for the former House Speaker. And siyempre, we will have to discuss also yung salin of the Vice President, and lastly, the affidavit of Ramil Madriaga.
Is this the stage where you will summon witnesses?
Not yet. The summoning of the witnesses would be during the formal proceedings once we have determined substance. No? So I think if it crosses substance, baka mga mga second week of April po yung full proceedings.
In your opinion, Congressman Terry, ano po yung pinakamalakas na charge doon sa dalawang natirang impeachment complaints? I understand they're very, very similar in terms of naka-itemized na list.
Well, actually, to be clear, halos pareho po yung mga grounds, no? Nung pong, all the complaints, even the withdrawn complaint and the set-aside complaint, no? Pero syempre, mabigat po talaga yung previous year's grounds already, yung confidential funds and death threat against the president and the first family, no? I think even on those points, the committee can be convinced on substance. Pero syempre, we are also awaiting the new developments po on yung binabanggit nga po ni Mr. Madriaga. Kasi syempre, those are very grave allegations and ultimately we would want him to be able to pass the credibility test as well and para mapatotohanan din po niya yung lahat ng mga sinasabi niya.
At this point, can we expect na everything will proceed in the Justice Committee before being referred to plenary instead of a surprise, biglang may one-third fast-track mode, Congressman?
I think barred na po yung any other impeachment mode, no? So there can't be any new impeachment complaint through the regular course, which is through the House Committee on Justice, and through the express route, which is to plenary. Barred na po yan when there was a referral to the House Justice Committee nung pong nakaraan.
Kong Terry, do you see in your deliberations in the Justice Committee any change in tone or mood affected by the announcement of the VP that she would be going for the presidency in 2028?
Parang wala naman po, no? I think we had seen yung pong vigorous discussions earlier, no? So I think that is the same tone that we will undertake tomorrow, no? So in fact, wala namang nagbago din in the manner by which we had implemented our rules in comparison to the president's impeachment, no? So like what we had stated previously, we're laser focused on our mandate and hopefully we will get to the truth, no? Relating to the charges against the Vice President.
Of course, you're going through this very carefully. I'd like to know what pitfalls there are in the process because you don't want this, challenged again before the Supreme Court.
I think yung pong pitfall, for example, on procedure, which is basically the timeliness of the filing has already been resolved at this point, no? So, yun po, because we had heard that already, the first two the impeachment complaints had been either withdrawn or set aside. Everything else po on procedure is already within the scope of the constitutional provisions, jurisprudence, and the impeachment rules of the House po. So I think it's just a matter na lang po of voting on a substance, and if it is affirmative that we find substance, proceeding po to full proceedings after yung pong palitan ng mga dokumento and answer of the Vice President.
What do you said baka by April magaganap yung presentation or calling of witnesses. When do you see the Justice Committee taking a vote on the two complaints if ever they satisfy sufficiency in both form and substance? When do you see this happening?
Well, the vote po on substance, I think, is scheduled on Wednesday, no? Pagka natapos po namin lahat ng mga talakayan on the third and fourth impeachment complaints, no? So, like what we had stated, kung favorable po on substance, magpo-proceed na po yan doon sa palitan ng mga dokumento. That will be around maybe 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, after which we can commence po full proceedings by the second week of April. Yung pong going into plenary, medyo matagal po yun kasi syempre we want to be exhaustive as well. We want the Vice President to also be able to provide her defense before the committee. So baka mga May po yung inaasahan ho nating vote on the committee and then after full proceedings and then vote in plenary. Yun po yung mga timelines po that we are looking at.
Is that so to prevent yung nagyari before, Congressman Redon, na sinabi nila hindi nabigyan yung buong House ng enough time to read and absorb yung laman ng mga impeachment complaint?
Well, ang totoo po, irrelevant na po yung concerns like that kasi ano na po ito this is going through the non-express route. That is relevant only pagka pinag-usapan po yung express route. And more importantly, yung Supreme Court had already made clarifications po on their decision in their resolution in which they said na what is important lang is House members that would want to impeach the Vice President, yung one-third, meron po silang kopya ng lahat ng articles of impeachment and yung po nga mga evidence. And during plenary deliberations, dapat lahat po ng mga miyembro may kopya ng pong articles of impeachment and yung mga evidence. Pero yung pong other aspects of it, I think nag-relax na po yung Supreme Court.
All right, we thank you for coming on to the show. House Justice Committee member and Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Ridon.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, we check on the situation in Israel as its conflict with Iran spirals. That and more stories on the Middle East airstrikes are next. Keep it here on One News.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. We circle back to our headline tonight, the Middle East conflict that is showing no signs of ending at the moment. Many Filipinos in the region already want repatriation. But the problem is, the airspace is still closed. Rainiel Pawid with the report.
This residential building in Tel Aviv was reduced to rubble after the missile attack from Iran. This was Iran's retaliation to the joint attack by the United States and Israel on Saturday, the end of February. This was the building where 32-year-old Pinay caregiver Mary Ann De Vera lived. On Sunday, her lifeless body was found among the rubble.
Unfortunately, siya yung kauna-unahang casualty dito sa Israel dun sa missile attack na nangyari nung Sabado ng gabi. Medyo matagal bago naging missing siya actually, no? For several hours until nahanap natin siya through the assistance ng Interpol. Siya pala yung nai-report nila na akala namin Israeli woman kasi sabi nila 40-year-old woman. So yung hindi nabigay yung ethnicity. So all of us thought malamang Israeli siya.
Mary Ann's husband positively identified her remains. Before the incident, Mary Ann had posted on social media that the missile attacks weren't ceasing and that she's getting tired running back and forth to the bomb shelter. The problem now, authorities can't bring home the Filipino worker's body back to the Philippines, at least not yet.
Unfortunately, yung pinakamalaking problema natin, yung airspace, sarado. Paano natin ililipad yung bangkay niya? Yan yung pinakamalaking problema natin ngayon. Sa ngayon, nasa morgue siya. So hanggang sa time na pwede nating ilipad siya, ililipad natin kaagad. Pati syempre yung kanyang asawa na nandito rin, nagtatrabaho din dito sa Israel.
Over at the Philippine Embassy in Israel, an employee gave us a glimpse of the mamad or bomb shelter.
Dito sa side na to, sa wing na to, itong bomb shelter. Kung makikita nyo, meron tayong window na tapos may metal sheet yan. Ayan. Hihilahin mo yan para magsara, close mo to, and then dito kayo mag-i-stay.
Authorities reminded Filipinos in Israel to immediately shelter in Mamad as soon as they hear the siren signaling attacks. That's especially because just last night, the Iron Dome failed to shield them from a missile. It landed straight on the street in Jerusalem, where it wounded 6. Meanwhile, all the way from Doha, Qatar, OFW Team Ces Oreña shared a video of an Indian national who got buried under a missile debris. He was just 10 steps away from where it happened.
Andito lang po kami sa bahay. Tapos, yung kinakabahan pa rin, wala pa rin tulog ng maayos. And hindi pa rin namin alam kung may trabaho din kami ngayon.
In Abu Dhabi, shrapnels rained onto the back of a known hotel.
Ito lang Abu Dhabi Mall. Then dito ako sa may Electra Park. Yun, ang lakas ng pagsabog ko. Takot.
According to the Department of Migrant Workers, they are ready to repatriate all Filipinos who want to go back to the Philippines. But that's as soon as the Middle East airspace reopens. So far, many OFWs have expressed interest in returning, and they are from Dubai, Israel, Bahrain, and Qatar.
We have already properly identified the meeting points, the transit points, the shelters from within. Kasi dun magtitipanan essentially, right? And from there, we can mobilize them to the exit points. Yes, as I said, the resources are there.
Alert Level 3 is currently up over Lebanon, while the UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Israel are all under Alert Level 2. Jordan, meantime, is under Alert Level 1. Iraq and Syria had earlier been under Alert Level 4, so there should have been mandatory repatriation for Pinoys in place in those countries. According to Senator Rafi Tulfo, the military is ready to assist in repatriation.
May mga airspace na open pa rin na pwede naman puntahan para sa evacuation natin mga OFWs. Ang sabi ng military, sila daw ay naka-standby, always ready in case mag-request ang DMW, DFA ng transportation, C-130 para sa evacuation plan.
For now, their only resort is in-country evacuation or transfer to safer areas within the Filipinos' host countries.
Kung sarado sa ngayon ng UAE, we will make sure to be there, our augmentation teams, in the areas surrounding kung saan pwedeng sumalubong at pumasok at the right time. Again, timing is everything at this stage.
For One News, Rainiel Pawid, News 5.
In Israel, more than 50 Filipinos have already registered for repatriation. Let's get the latest situation over there from Philippine Ambassador to the State of Israel, Eileen Mendiola. Good evening to you, Ambassador.
Good evening, Ces, and good evening, Shawn, at sa mga viewers ninyo.
How's the situation over there po? Are there continuing sirens for you to seek cover?
Yes, Ces, we've been experiencing this since Saturday. Multiple times, even in the middle of the night, there are sirens. The last one we had here for central Israel is about noon time. Mga 1 o'clock na tapos our time.
Our kababayan, the Pinay caregiver who perished, how soon kaya will she be able to go home? Do you have any idea when the airspace will be opened?
Right now, we hear that only flights bringing in Israelis may land in Ben Gurion Airport, but we're not even sure if this will happen. We're in touch with some of the airlines to see if we can piggyback on their outbound flights, pick up their compatriots. No, so we assume that the flights are empty, and then they will be full coming back. But again, we are not sure if this is possible at all, because we were also advised that some of these planes are actually coming from elsewhere, not coming from Israel. So that the fact that the airspace is closed remains the biggest problem. So this problem is compounded by the situation of Mary Ann. We are unable to send her remains as soon as we want to, precisely because of this situation.
And it's quite uncertain. We really cannot predict what will be happening in the next few days.
That's right. We keep on monitoring all of the available sources, both from the Israeli government as well as other contracts in the diplomatic corps. We keep a close eye out on some of the news that are coming out from the different countries also. So we're just hoping that this situation becomes stable and that hopefully peace will reign soon here in Middle East.
Ambassador Eileen, actually, that's what I wanted to ask you. No? If you guys, you as well as the other ambassadors from the Philippines to the GCC countries and maybe the Israeli Foreign Service, kung may sinabi po sila sa inyo na kind of just anything for you to be able to craft some sort of plan?
Since this happened, the plans on repatriation have been put into place. We constantly monitor the exit points. Actually, right now we're working with the Israeli government, with the Israeli Ministry of Tourism, to help out stranded Filipinos, the tourists, no? Because it is the Ministry of Tourism here in Israel that are offering assistance to bring them out. So as just before I came on board, we were directing operations on how we can get some of our Filipinos on board those land transportation going to Taba.
How long is that travel po?
Peace time it's about 5 hours. If you drive straight, but it might take a longer route this time because they will need to make sure that they're not passing through military bases.
Around how many, Ambassador, how many Filipino tourists are currently in Israel, as far as you know?
As far as we know, the ones that have called us, we have 35 tourists. Of these 35 tourists, 27 have already been able to cross the border to Jordan. No, and then that is where they plan to await their flight out. So we're left with we're left with 5, and we're still trying to contact 2 more who have indicated their interest to go back. It's the 5 now that we're actively trying to get on board this program by the Ministry of Tourism.
So Jordan is still the easiest way to get out, to get out of the Middle East.
It's the for Israel, it's the shortest distance. But then we don't know the situation. I believe there was a report that says the airport is open to limited flights only. No, so that still remains the problem for the tourists.
And
The group.
Go ahead, Ambassador.
No, because the group of 27, they are an organized tour group, so they're able to manage to make their own arrangements once they arrive in Jordan.
Could this be an option as well for those who want to be repatriated? Like, I understand that 50 have already indicated that that desire to come back home.
Actually says the figure of 50 right now, it's 64, but that already includes the tourists, which is half of the number. Right now we are only looking at 32 Filipino workers who have indicated their desire to be repatriated. But for this, we are working together with DMW and OWA to make this happen. The situation on the borders, they keep on changing. We get information, like for example, just now, we only received the information about the Taba crossing 18 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago. No? So we had to put in place the plan immediately.
And Ambassador, every time we talk to you and there's some sort of missile attack, no, you always say, sanay yung mga Pilipino, di ba? Everyone in Israel is used to it. Is that still the case now? Is it business as usual there in Tel Aviv?
Yes and no. Yes, because it's an experience that many of us have experienced here. But no, because you can never get totally used to it. And since Saturday, we've noticed the length of time that we've been spending inside the shelter. It tends to keep growing and growing. Like yesterday, I think we spent an hour and a half straight sa loob ng inside the shelter. And then one of my colleagues was saying, yes, but we were just very near, and it was actually in a span of 3 hours that we kept on coming in and out of the shelter nonstop.
So how would you compare it from the previous experience?
It's the fact that it's a bigger war. I think this is the major point. It's not just Israel and Iran. It's the U.S. It's the GCC countries, and my heart goes out to our kababayans in the GCC countries because some of these countries don't actually have sirens. They don't have bomb shelters.
At the moment, is there anything that the embassy, maybe through the DMW and OWA as well, for any sort of assistance that can be provided to our fellow Filipinos there, Ambassador?
Right now, where I believe the guidance of Secretary Hans is that we should concentrate on in-country support. So we are looking at the other types of requests that we are getting from the community, like, for example, food assistance, no? So these are the things that we have to work on. Those that have been mentioning that they need food assistance, they don't necessarily want to go home. So our job is to make sure that food is brought or sent to wherever they are.
Is that achievable, easily achievable under these current circumstances? Like you said, medyo mas intense ito compared to the last time.
We will make sure that we will involve the companies that they work for to make sure that the companies also provide food assistance to our workers. And we have actually started calling the associations, the business associations, to make sure that food is sent to the workers.
May work po ba today, Ambassador? It's Monday. Our
No,
offices, yeah.
Actually, it's a state of emergency, so there is no work. Only essential services are open, as well as those providing for food, for example, groceries. These are open. Schools are out of they're closed.
Well, we know also that our kababayans are looking out. Many are caregivers and are looking out for their employers. So it's you could say a double whammy for them, because aside from looking after their own needs, they really have to care for their employers.
Actually, that's true, says you may consider that they're working actually 24/7. And the stress, like you said, is double, because they not only have to think about themselves, but they have to think about their wards, basically.
Well, Ambassador, of course, it's easy to say for us here so far away from the conflict, but do take care and keep safe. We thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Cess, and thank you very much, Shawn.
That was Ambassador Eileen Mendiola speaking to us from Israel. You're still watching The Big Story on One News, and coming up, Senator Raffy Tulfo confirms he is running again in the 2028 elections. Is he eyeing the post of president or vice president? We'll give you the answer when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us here on The Big Story. Saudi Arabia is on the brink of getting deeply involved into the Middle East conflict after one of the world's largest oil refineries halted operations. State-owned oil firm Saudi Aramco has paused operations at its Ras Tanura refinery after it was hit by a drone attack. Ras Tanura is a major export hub for Saudi crude oil, processing over 500,000 barrels daily. It marks as Saudi's first disruption to its local infrastructure since the US and Israel carried out audacious attacks on Iran, which led to the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Over the weekend, Saudi condemned Iran for its, quote, blatant and coward-like attacks targeting areas in Riyadh. The foreign ministry warned, quote,
632-8845-7799. Through this number, Filipinos here will be able to contact loved ones in Iran, Israel, Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia for free. Those in the countries mentioned may also place free calls to the Philippines using the Tinbo app through a smart virtual number. This feature is available until March 7, but MVP says they are monitoring in case there is a need for extension. Pangilinan says he personally ordered PLDT and SMART to offer free calls for Filipinos in countries affected by the conflict in the Middle East to make it as easy as possible for our countrymen to reach their loved ones and vice versa.
In other news, Department of Justice prosecutors have subpoenaed several Villar Land Holdings Corporation executives, including Senator siblings Mark and Camille Villar, their parents, Manuel and Cynthia, and brother Manuel Paulo Villar. That's over a criminal complaint filed by the Securities and Exchange Commission against the company and its executives. The SEC alleges that the firm engaged in market manipulation, insider trading, and misleading disclosures. In a statement, Villar Land and its directors have vowed full cooperation into the probe. They are confident that, quote, an impartial panel will vindicate them from the charges.
Meantime, Senator Raffy Tulfo has made it clear he has no plans to run for president in 2028. Instead, he will be seeking re-election for the Senate. Tulfo said that private groups have urged him to run, but he already gave them the thumbs down.
I will run for re-election. Yan, itaga nyo sa bato. I will run for re-election sa 2028. Independent pa rin ako. Yeah. Pero I will support doon sa nakita kong kandidato na katugma ng aking advokasya. So whether would that be admin or that opposition, depende kung katugmay ng advocacy ko, nakikita ko na sincere talaga sila doon sa mga sinasabi nila at kaya nilang panindigan.
And as for Senator Risa Ontiveros, she hopes that the united opposition will name its presidential bet earlier than planned. The coalition is targeting an announcement of either fourth quarter of this year or early 2027.
The earlier, the better, I believe, para maka-alok at maka-attract ng suporta mula sa ating mga kababayan. But we're going through that process very seriously. And several of us are open or willing. So umaasa ako na mas maaga kaysa sa mas huli ay makapag-anunsyo na kami.
And now for our big picture tonight, it's Congressman or Congresswoman Laila De Lima's luggage and paper bag. Well, it's not what you think. De Lima makes a play to ex-Marine soldiers' accusations that she received cash-filled suitcases. Lawyer Levi Baligod then edited his client's allegations to say that they saw De Lima leaving a townhouse with a paper bag containing cash. In a video this morning, De Lima showed what she was really carrying.
And that is...
Don't be caught bringing a maleta.
I know, right? Magbabackpack na lang ako. Baka pabuksan pa eh. On that note, that's it for the big story on this first Monday of March. We'll see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.